Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What Do You Say Anime. I am your host, Peter, and on today's episode, myself and my co host, Miles, will be giving our first impressions on the currently airing Fall 2021 season. Miles, you are an avid anime watcher. You are. You are the guy who critiques it the hardest in our Discord. So, what are your thoughts so far on the overall sphere that is the Fall 2021 season?
So, half of that was true, what you just said. I am
But which
certainly
half?
the guy who critiques it the hardest.
Yeah.
But uh, this is really my first or second season, that I've dived into, like winter 2019, maybe. I watched like 4 or 5 shows, and then I was like, I'm just not ever going to keep up with this. But you needed someone to step up to the plate, and so I decided to for fall 2021, and it's been fun. I think I've enjoyed it. I think the shows are pretty good, and what I've learned the most from it is to, like, when you're watching things weekly, you get like a fresh look at them. You know, um, like your palate is cleansed a little bit, so things that
Yes.
might add up and annoy me as I'm binging a show are a little more tolerable uh, in this weekly format.
Yes. Yep. And I think you said the best and how I'm viewing this season. This season is fun. I don't know if it's good, but I have yet to drop a show after 3 episodes of the majority of the season of what I'm interested in. So that's normally a good sign. There's one show that's on like the chopping block, but as of right now, I have not dropped any shows from this season, which is a plus because the last few seasons there have been episodes that I've dropped before even finishing episode 1. So I'm having a lot of fun with this season.
I think it's fun. I have dropped a show, um, but it's only one. It was almost two, but it was just one. So I think it's been a pretty fun time so far.
Yes, I agree. And for the listeners going forward, we're going to be breaking down some of the shows that we watched. We're going to try to keep it as spoiler free as possible, but during a discussion, things might come up. So, in the timestamps below, there will be timestamps for the shows that we are covering. So, if you don't want to hear us talking about it and you want like the full clean slate of not hearing anybody talking about it, use those timestamps because spoilers might slip through. And there's definitely going to be one for Blue Period that will be a spoiler. So, I'm going to get that there right now. We're going to be talking about an important scene, I think, in Blue Period, just that we haven't seen in anime. So if you plan on watching Blue Period, you might want to avoid our first impressions on that. But without further ado, Miles, let's jump right into the fall of 2021 season. And by the way, we're not going to be talking about shows that have had sequels because if you enjoyed those shows, you're probably watching it anyway. So if you're looking for our thoughts on like 86 season 2 or Jobless Reincarnation for the second part, we're not going to be talking about that. So just a heads up, just the newer airing shows that we haven't gotten content for. So without further ado, now we got it. Let's jump into probably the biggest non-sequel of this season, and that's Komi Can't Communicate. It's by OLM Studios, who it did our favorite, or our highest rated Watch Club show of all time on Taxi, and they are back this season with Komi Can't Communicate. To me, I think OLM is Studio of the Year. I just thought how brilliant of a show Odd Taxi was, and now bringing Komi Can't Communicate to life, and just the style that the manga is, and how well they're adapting it has been an absolute treat for me as a Komi manga reader. I thought that this was going to be a better anime than manga, and I think I am correct on that. So, Miles, what are your thoughts on Komi Can't Communicate?
So I am doing like the legal thing, only watching it via the official Netflix release. So I'm only one episode in. That episode was quite enjoyable. So I I knew the concept of Komi can't communicate. The manga is, you know, relatively popular, or quite popular.
Yeah, I think it's like the
Um,
second most popular like non-shonen manga in the United States.
okay, so I generally knew what I was in for. I thought, it was obviously beautifully animated. Um, they did like a good job. I liked the contrast between Komi when you can tell like when everyone's like looking at her versus when she's like in her own head and like looks like a little cat or whatever. Um, I thought that was fun. I didn't realize there was going to be that bit at the end where like apparently everyone who goes to the school is like fucking weird.
Yeah, yeah. They all have their own trope. Yeah, it seems like.
Yeah. So like that was like a fun hook, and I'm excited to see more of that. I don't know if I get like all of the hype, and it might be because I haven't read the manga and I wasn't like, God, I can't wait until Komi Can't Communicate gets an anime. Like it's really really well done, but it seems. And this also is kind of an older manga too, right? So like maybe
it's been
because
going since like 2015, I want to say it started.
Yeah, okay, so like 6 years.
2016, so about 5 years.
Okay. It's just like it seems like it's not necessarily like cookie cutter, but it isn't. It doesn't like stand out in a way that, I might have expected it to. But I mean, it's again only one episode in, and I really did like the episode. I thought it was a good time.
And I've watched non-legal means, but I have watched 3 episodes of Komi, and I just think it's like a wonderful adaptation. The manga itself is just fun, and that's what the show just radiates. It just radiates fun. I think one thing that what Komi stands out compared to other like school slice of life like this is the supporting cast is really good. We haven't really been introduced, or Miles hasn't been introduced, but when we get interactions with Komi's parents, not just the mom, but like the entire family of a mom, a dad, and a younger brother, it adds like another dynamic that we don't get a lot of in anime. I'll put it that way, and it's just fun seeing like a slice. We saw it with Horimiya this season or this year as well, where we get like a full family dynamic. That others just school, especially when it's focused on school slice of life / comedy / romances really don't dive into. So that's just one thing that I find especially great about Komi. But Miles, there's a lot of controversy about Komi, and as you are watching the Netflix, how did you feel about the chalkboard scene, the fan sub versus the Netflix sub with the text and stuff like that? Because if people aren't aware, there was a huge controversy on like Twitter, Reddit, and stuff like that, where Netflix is leaving out text that the fan sub showed, and people are saying like because Komi can't talk really that it's like ruining her character, and we're missing like important dialogues. And then I'm just gonna say from like my standpoint as a manga reader, I thought the Netflix subs were perfectly fine. The context was there, and I was able to figure out exactly what was going on. But Miles, since you're not a manga reader and you are watching it by legal means, what were your thoughts on the Netflix subs?
So I thought overall the Netflix subs were good and serviceable and everything. I think that, as is the case, people don't like the whole Netflix anime thing for normal. They're delaying shows 2 weeks. I know people like watching weekly. Before you would have to wait like a whole season before things got put out of like Netflix jail or whatever. So I think when Netflix is doing anything, it's always going to be met with like a little bit of a critical eye from the community. The chalkboard scene I thought was just fine. Like I thought they did a great job. You could tell who was typing or who was writing and everything, and all of that was good. I will say there were like 2 scenes that they didn't translate the text on screen that I thought they should, and I only really think one of them hurt my enjoyment of the show. So the first one is when they're talking about how awkward our main character is, right? And they have like all the things appear on screen, and I assumed it was just a bunch of like awkward things he did. Looked up the fan sub, that's what it was. Some of the examples were funny, so optimally you would definitely want that stuff there. I feel like in the future Netflix should try to do that. The second one is post ED when they did the bit about how everyone in the school is weird, right? When they were showing, like, I guess which quirk or oddity each person has, none of those were translated. So I actually have like no scope of how weird I expect these characters to be. Like I don't know if it's like, oh, this person can't talk, and or if it's like fucking Danganronpa, you know what I mean?
Sure,
And it's like,
yeah.
so I don't know. So like, I think the controversy is overblown, but not out of place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yep, I agree. I went back to watch the Netflix sub just to get the perspective, and maybe it's because I read the manga that I'm a little biased, but like I thought the context was there. I felt like I could put the pieces together, and my enjoyment didn't get hindered at all. So to me, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I do think that the anime community likes to complain about things. Even if it's something minor, they like to blow it out of proportion. I felt like that this was one of it. But I can kind of see why they'd be upset. But to me, I thought it was just a little blown out of proportions. But that's just me. Don't come after me. But so Miles, would you recommend this show? Is this like a skip, consider it, must watch? You recommend it for this type of person? What are you thinking about Komi?
I would say so far, I would say it's a must watch. It's an enjoyable show. It's so pretty, and it's also, and I honestly do think there's some value in this. Pretty zeitgeisty, like it's a big part of the community. So it'll be easy to talk to people about the show and have conversations and stuff. And like, that's a part of the reason that I watch anime. And I know that you watch anime, Pete,
Yep.
because we like to talk to people about media. And, when something is as popular as Komi-san is, like, that's always a plus to me. Like, so that is, I would say it's a must watch for sure.
Yep, I agree. I think this is a must watch. In terms of the non-sequels, I think this is the most must watch of the season. Kind of like banking off Miles. A lot of people are watching this that I know in my sphere that aren't slice of life fans. They know what Komi is. They're checking it out. They're enjoying it. And so just getting that into the environment that is like Twitter or Discords or something like that is really fun because we can have great conversations. I also think there's great technical things about the show. The OP is incredible. I love the OP. I think it's the best OP of the season. I think it's an OP like contender for Anime of the Year, I think. And just obviously it's beautiful.
Yeah.
The animation, the first scene with like the little kid walking with his mom looked like a movie. And I was just like, it set. I was expecting like okay animation because the manga itself really isn't like incredible in terms of the art standards, and this is just like going above and beyond what they were asked. So I'm a big fan of that stuff, and that's why I think it's must watch.
I don't know. I'm ready for a hot take. I wish the whole thing was done in the style of the OP.
Oh, that would be so good.
I love that. I know that, like Pat and Johnny are going to get on my case for that because they really love that like overly clean anime
the
style.
Your Name style of animation.
Yeah, like the Your Name, the Kyoto Annie sort of style. And that's good and I like it, but like there was just something about that OP. It's just so good.
It's funny you say that. There's a show that happened last season that like nobody watched. It was the girls soccer animation.
Okay.
And the ED is done in a completely different style that was just so well done. And then the anime itself was just like hot dog water. So it's just like, why didn't you do it like the ED? It's unique, it's fun, and then they made it like colored pencils in the anime. So that was unfortunate, but that's kind of like what it reminded me of. Like this OP is like really, it reminded me of like a Science Saru. Like
and that's why, right? Like I'm obviously like a huge Science Saru stan, so
like, give me the Aizoken feel or something like that. And I think it could have been done that way as well, but I'm perfectly content with what we're getting right now. I think it's wonderful. Let's move on to a show though that we're gonna have some words about. It's a pretty popular show. It's unique because it's being done by two powerhouse studios. Okay. It's being done by Madhouse and Mappa, and that's Takt OP Destiny. I have some qualms with it, not as much as you, Miles. I'm enjoying this show. The music element, I have a lot of questions about. Did you watch episode 3?
I did.
Okay, so I have it. This might be a spoiler if you haven't watched it. So in episode 3, they like do like this like prelude after the incident that turned her Destiny's old self. I forgot her name off the top of my head right now. Cosette, and now she's Destiny, and we're seeing like before what happens in episode 1, and they're just like standing out in the backyard, and then just D2, they can sense D2s, and they just go fight them. But like how they set up the whole first episode and second episode is that the D2s weren't triggered unless there was music playing. And so I just thought, like, why are there just random D2s walking around, like, in the forest when where they're living isn't a hotspot for D2s?
So I got you. Okay. I'm ready for that.
All right, cool.
So,
I'll be out here.
The D2s invaded Earth.
Yes.
Correct?
From a meteorite, yeah.
Yes, from the black meteorite.
Yes.
And there was, like, a big old war, and then we found out that, like, certain musically gifted individuals are actually magic or something, and they can fight the D2s.
Yep.
And then there was a truce. And I believe the truce involves not playing music, right? Because the D2s hate that. So, like, in return for not doing that, the D2s, like, stopped aggressing, which is how civilization has started to get back on its feet, as you see, right? So, at the end of episode 3, Lenny and Titan are talking to each other, and Lenny's like, "What I feared is coming true," and Titan's like, "Are the D2s moving again?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think they are."
Okay.
And like so they're like starting, like, that should have seemed weird to you, like, and that's because it's weird because they were aggressing again, right? Like, that wasn't an expected thing. You didn't expect to see them in that location.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes more sense. That's okay. That kind of like erases my qualms then, because I guess I just missed that. But Miles, you have some qualms about this show. What's something that you're not really agreeing with, because it has like an 8 on Mal, and you're just like, this should not have an 8. So what's something that like is bugging you about Takt?
Yeah, so there's a few. One, I enjoy Takt. I think it's a fun show. It's absolutely gorgeous. The character design is like actually 10 out of 10. Like, I think all of the music cards look fantastic. I even think, like, Takt looks good, Anna looks good, like, all the characters look fantastic. And the show's a lot of fun. There's a few things. One, is supposed to be a music themed sort of show, and Takt is a concert pianist. He's classically trained. And in order to, like, get Destiny going, he will start, like, playing a piece of classical music or something. And that, I don't know exactly why that happens, and it's not always needed. But, like, in episode 1, he plays the Moonlight Sonata, right, by Beethoven. And, like, that's, like, a really somber, powerful piece. And I was so excited to have, like, a pretty, like, intense fight scene set to that, right? But then they stop, and then they just, like, fight. And, like, that happens a few times. And, like, the scenes where you have these, like, heavy-hitting classical pieces of music are so static, if that makes sense. Like, music is such a dynamic thing. And, anime and media in general, you can add music to a scene to make it more powerful. People remember, scenes where music is playing and, like, different things. Like, like Violet Evergarden's soundtrack is, like, forever burned into my head. It added so much gravitas to some of those scenes. Like, there's just, like, a scene of Violet, like, walking down a hallway with, like, a lantern or something, but she has to go do something that's, like, relatively important, and, like, the music that plays is super good. And, like, this has this whole theme of, like, this classic music and everything, and it just really fails to take advantage of it, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, that, it takes me out. It's really weird. And then the second issue I have, and I'm interested in your take on this. I'm not, like, a big fight anime kind of guy. I do like animes with fights in them. I like Madoka Magica, Devilman Crybaby, all of this stuff. But the fights in this seem pretty bad so far. I'm 3 episodes in, And they, like, the forest scene, it was exactly just Destiny sniping them and then Titan killing one of them. And then they go back and then they shoot the other one. And, like, the D2s don't ever fight back once the music carts start fighting them. The D2s come in, they beat the shit out of, like, civilians, and then the good guys show up and then just obliterate them. And it's been 3 episodes. Now, I'm sure at some point they're going to fight back or something's going to happen. But, and we'll probably get, like, a music cart versus music cart fight at some point, which would be, like, really cool. Because Sagan, I think is his name, like, looks kind of sus. Whoever that head conductor guy is.
Well, also, like, Destiny is in a regular magic cart or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe she falls under something is kind of like the vibe I was maybe getting.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
But the fights have seemed super static on half of the party during this, right? So, like, either the D2s are, like, just blowing up buildings and, like, throwing civilians across the, planet or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Destiny or Titan is just shooting them and they're getting shot. And that's another issue I've had with it.
I really liked the first... Oh, sorry. So the first, I guess, in canon Destiny fight, it's in episode 3. I thought, like, that animation was, like, really fluid. I had a lot of fun with that fight. But then in the D2 forest scene, it really wasn't, like... I wasn't, like, excited by what I was saying, because she was, like, missing her shots in the beginning. I'm like... And then they really weren't doing anything to Destiny. And then we had, like, a dialogue dump, and then Titan just comes and shoots him with a shotgun. And I thought that was a little underwhelming. But there are some parts with the first episode had, like, a decent fight as well. I'm hoping that we can get some more, like, end boss style monsters where the fights go longer, the music is incorporated with the fights better, because I do think that's, like, what it's lacking. It's something that, like, Attack on Titan does insanely well, is long, prolonged fights with the epic music, with the animation studios that they have at the helm of this show. We should be seeing, like, some of the, like, incredible fights, because, like, Madhouse has done, like, Hunter x Hunter, and that has, like, my favorite fight of all time. Mappa's doing this as well. They have Jujutsu Kaisen, which has, like, 3 Anime of the Year contenders for Fight of the Year last year. So, like, they have the people at the helm have, like, the ability to make something great. I'm just waiting for it to see it, and I wish we got that showcased earlier, rather than hopefully later, but, like, we don't even know.
It's like, to go away from anime for, like, half a second, like, think about even something that is complete garbage, much worse than Takt Opt Destiny is, right? The Phantom Menace, okay?
Dun, dun,
just,
dun, dun, dun,
yeah, okay,
dun,
right?
Dun, yeah.
Duel of Fates, like, that is iconic. And I think it just shows how good... You know what people don't realize upon, like, not rewatching it? That fight is split into thirds with 2 other inconsequential fights, right? You have the Gungan fight, and then you have Padme, like, shooting droids or something, trying to, like, and it cuts away from that, but, like, the music helps that fight scene so much.
Yes.
And it's just so good that no one remembers anything else about the damn movie.
Yeah, because, like, you brought that up and you're like, it's kind of the thirds of, like, I don't remember, like, it's been like 15 years, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, I rewatch them anytime a new one comes out, and it's mostly awful, since, like, 8 out of, like, whatever Star Wars suck, but I still like them for whatever reason. But, like, I feel like this is something, like, that fight you were talking about where she's just massacring D2s, but, like, the camera work and cinematography is, like, really good and fluid, and it's, like, tracing her movement. Yes. How much cooler would that be if it had awesome music?
Yeah.
Right?
A whole nother level, yeah.
I feel like the sound design in this is, like, pretty mid, and I guess and maybe it's unfair to it, but I was expecting really good sound design coming into this.
Yeah, for a show about music, I did expect a little bit more. I do think it has the opportunity to, like, redeem itself. I don't know if this is just, like, a slow burn or something, and they want to set for, like, one epic scene. I'm not entirely sure of the path that they're going, but I'm really crossing my fingers that they step that stuff up. Miles, what would you say about Takt OP. Recommend it, skip it, must watch, etc.
Yeah, so I would say I would recommend it. I don't think it's necessarily what I would say is like if you like this kind of show, and you like the way it looks and stuff, for sure give it a watch. It has like a pretty cool road trip vibe going to it, like a classic Americana kind of deal, which is relatively rare in anime.
Very.
So that's like pretty enjoyable. What I would say is like if you're hesitant on it, just keep your ear to the ground and look at that 8.08 it has now, and if towards the end it goes up, I would say definitely give it a watch. It'll get into that must-watch category. And then if it goes down into like that 7.8, 7.7 sort of area, and you don't think it's for you, it's probably skippable.
Right on. Yeah. Going into this, when we did our preview, I thought this was like an absolute must-watch, just based off of it's an original. It's done by 2 powerhouse studios. It's a very unique. This style of story is why I gravitate towards anime, because haven't really seen anything like this before. And I don't know if it's because I had too high of expectations, but I was a little disappointed in it. I would still recommend it. I think it's fun. I liked, like, especially in episode 3, the dialogue between the characters that they had was, I had fun with that as well. There's just some things that I expected from the story that I'm not seeing, but I do think it has the room to grow to be a higher score than what I currently have it. So I would recommend it to most people, to be honest.
I think the characters showed better. Meeting Titan did assuage some fears that I had. So, like, I was worried all of the music arts were going to be Destiny,
Yeah.
just like very robot Kudere number 9-y.
Yes.
And like, I like that. I'm down for that. But like, I don't want everyone to be like that. I can deal with like 1 or 2 in my shows. And so meeting Titan and having her be super chipper and, extroverty and stuff was good and fun, and makes me excited to meet the rest of the characters, because the cast has been really diverse.
Yes. Yep. I agree. All right. Next up, a show that I'm reading the manga for. It's a style of show that I heavily gravitate towards, and that's Blue Period. We are only scratching the surface of like what Blue Period is, but I'm a big fan of stories that are chase your dreams, kind of like do whatever it takes, live your youth, that style of show. Very a place further than the universe-esque. Instead of going to a location, I guess it's more of like following a career path in Blue Period. It's also unique that we have a sign-in based in high school. We don't really get a whole lot of those, so I'm a fan of that. We deal with some like real issues, but at the same time, the dialogue and the characters in the show, it's like also just like a giant factor that drives why I love Blue Period. We saw it in like episode 1 with like his friends. They're out like drinking and watching like the soccer game and stuff like that, and it shows like the delinquent style of teenagers that we don't really see, where it's not like, I guess, like i.e. Tokyo Revengers that we had the last 2 seasons, where they're delinquents and they're like in gangs and they fight. This is just like delinquents in terms of like they don't really care about school. They want to go like hang out with their friends and drink and watch the soccer game style that really is, I don't think, has been shown in anime all that often. Grand Blue comes to my mind, but that show is like literally based around drinking. And then we touched on some real topics that we saw in episode 3, like your identity with Ryuji. Miles, what are your first impressions on Blue Period? Because you kind of went into this a little blind on what the show was about.
Yeah. Blue Period has been, I'm gonna say I liked it more than I thought I would. Well, hearing the premise, it seemed a little dull to me, and like it is kind of dull, but in like a interesting way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's hard to explain. Yeah,
because it's like they'll just be like explaining some art shit for like 15 minutes in the show, and he'll be like, "Oh, I need to learn how to hold my pencil," and I'm like, "Oh God, this guy." I hope he learns how to hold his pencil. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm into it.
Yeah.
It's and it's like weird because like every once in a while I'll come out of it and I'll be like, why am I into this? And then I'll be like, oh, I hope he can find his own style. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he's just imitating these
What,
other. He needs to
what,
figure out who he is.
what kind of art is he picking if he wants to go to college? Like, oh, he
Yeah,
chose oil
yeah.
painting. Oh, he chose oil painting. Yeah.
Which is, like it's interesting, and I think it's because the characters are all super real. Like I think like everyone seems like a very authentic person who is like their own selves. And they all have different motivations and talent levels and like things like that. Um, and I think that's what makes it interesting because, um, it's pretty. I'm gonna say pretty brave because like a lot of these, more adult series, like adult focus series, like still want to have like a gimmick.
Yes. Yes.
Like Love is War is like my favorite sign-in probably. Like it's so freaking good, but
It's my number
it
two.
still has a gimmick.
Yeah.
So that's like and there was something else that we're going to be talking about another show that has a gimmick like that's, more focused in the adult world later on. And so far Blue Period doesn't really seem to have one. It's just the story about this guy trying to figure out his career path and the people he comes across, meets during that, and the effect that art has on his life. It's like, it's kind of brave, to be honest.
No, I agree.
And like I think that resonates with me because I think the passion of whoever wrote this, I don't know who wrote the manga, but whoever they are, I think did a very good job of getting across their passion for this topic.
Yes. One thing that I really enjoy about Blue Period, they do it in the manga, but I think it's done very well in the episodes, is that each episode sort of has a theme, and it sort of has like a peak in each episode. So episode 1 was like him discovering his passion for art, going with that path. Episode 2, the scene with his mom, that's what hooked me in the manga. I thought it was absolutely incredible. Like, I don't know about you, Miles, but like I had to talk with my mom and my dad about like picking a college. Can we afford it? And then his scene of like showing his passion when he drew the picture of his mom, and him, how his art opens up his eyes, how it opens up the world to him, how he viewed his mom, where he gained like a whole other level of appreciation for his mom. They both break down crying because she's just overwhelmed that like her son has this passion, where she was skeptical at first because she was like, you're smart, go be like an accountant, like we're poor, you can live the life that maybe we couldn't give you. And he's like, no, like you do all of this for me, like money is not the thing, it's like you love me like as a son. I thought that was so overwhelming. And then the third episode with Ryuji, I think in the anime they call her Yuka a lot. So her scene where we kind of like get set in stone that she is biologically a man who's cross-dressing, and she runs into the problem of getting dumped because the girl or the guy that she went out on a date with didn't like agree, like, hey, I'm straight, like this wasn't going to work for me. And you see her like break down crying, and it's something where we don't see in anime where it touches on topics like, I mean, this isn't true, but I want to bring up the point where people are watching this and they're like, oh, is that like what being trans is? Like, is she bisexual? Is she gay? Is she a man? Is she a woman? What pronouns do I use? And I think that's something that's like really important in today's like media that really isn't addressed in anime, and that we're seeing it for the first time because how Yaguchi addresses her as she, her, but the Wikipedia says that her, I guess their pronouns are like they, them, but like it's really confusing just based off the dialogue that people are talking about in the show and the manga. And Miles, you did a little like research before we did this episode about like the pronouns like the Japanese use and stuff like that. So did you want to touch on that at
Yeah.
all a little bit?
Yes. So from my understanding, in Japan, the pronoun usage is a little bit more fluid than we have over here in the West. Um, Not entirely, but they have gendered personal pronouns. So like their equivalent of I, me, myself, can be gendered. There's a few different things like that. So Ryuji uses feminine uh, personal pronouns for her, or for, I think I'm gonna go with they. I think
But yeah,
their
but it's
selves.
translated as she, her in the anime, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's technically the best translation, but I don't think it's the same thing as exactly that. So
Yeah.
I was reading this article, and um in like gay communities in Japan, gay men will refer to each other and themselves using these feminine pronouns. Um, and and then I guess like a slight spoiler alert for maybe further into the manga if you guys want to skip forward the next 30 seconds or so. But they apparently have an arc where they switch to wanting to use female pronouns like more clearly, I guess. Like they want other people to do that. And so I think currently they identify as a man, but they don't want to like conform to what society is saying. But it looks like they might be going, just trying to figure out if maybe they identify as a woman or something later on in the Blue Period story. Um, but I did think this was like an interesting look at how cultures view gender, right? And like how gender isn't the same thing as like biological sex, and the fact that it was so difficult to translate the terminology is sort of like indicative of that in like my opinion. Um, so when I heard about it, anime doesn't always do the best job with things like this. Feminine men are often played as a joke.
Yes.
And so there's lots of anime that do a great job with it. Wonder Egg Priority did a wonderful job with trans issues. You know, the Satoshi Kon Christmas film does a good job.
Tokyo
Tokyo
Godfathers.
Godfathers.
Yeah.
And I have high hopes for this one. After watching it, so
Yes.
it's a topic that I like to like. Representation is just like really important, right? Because if you feel that way and you don't ever see it portrayed in media, you might not be able to like figure it out how to like voice yourself or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like
Yep.
having characters like that is just so important, and it's so important that they do it, in like a realistic, positive light.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I like that.
Yep, I want to bring it up because I have a lot of friends that are, I jokingly call them the shonen bros, who are gravitating towards Blue Period and loving it. And I really do think that this is a topic that's not addressed. I know One Piece is actually kind of doing this right now with Yamato, so that's really cool as well. But for a lot of people whose first time viewing something like this, I think it's important that it's being shown in a light where we can have this discussion and we can talk about it and find out more information about like the translations and like what they say and why they're saying it and how they're saying it. And to me, it's one reason why, to me, I think this is a must watch just based off my personal preference. And I'm also reading the manga, so I know what's coming up ahead. For most people, I would just say I would recommend it. But if you're a fan of A Place Further Than the Universe, I think is probably the thing that, or like Barakamon, people chasing their dreams or going after a goal in a realistic setting. I think this is like an absolute must watch. I love Blue Period. Like there's a reason why like it won like a bunch of awards. It starts off maybe a little slow for most people, but it picks up and you gravitate towards the cast that I think we even like you touch on that. The cast itself is like really fun too. So.
Yeah, it's a great cast. I'm gonna say like if you're a shonen bro, if you're like a broette, um, like for sure check this out, because I actually think like if you like shonen, it because at least partly you like the themes. Blue Period shares a lot thematically with shonen. It's very follow your dream. You can do this, you know, sort of thing that we see in like Hunter x Hunter or something like that, right? Where there's like a goal you want to obtain, and it's like an unlikely goal, but it's what your passion is, and so you're gonna go and do that. It's like a slightly, that's a lie. It's a very more serious Sugeki no Soma, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but like I think that's just such like a resident belief and like value that's held by people that you should pursue your passions, and I think that's why it's doing a good job.
I agree. So what's are you like recommending it or must watch? What do you think on Blue Period?
God, I'm not gonna say it's a must watch. What I am gonna say is give it a chance.
Okay.
Like I could see it just boring the pants off of someone, and I don't necessarily think that's wrong. It's not boring the pants off me. I really like it, and I think that it's one of those shows where, you know, if you're just judging the book by its cover, maybe you won't give it a chance when you should. So
Sure.
it for sure give it a chance.
Yep. I agree. And we're gonna move on to something that's not as deep and is just silly fun, and that's My Senpai is Annoying. Another show that I am reading the manga for. I absolutely love the manga. It's so much fun. The adaptation so far, I think, has been okay. I do think that the manga does it better for this example. But it's just like I crave office interaction, even if it's silly and not like real. I just crave like adult interactions, romance, office setting style of shows, which is why I gravitated towards the manga, and that's why I was so excited when I found out that it was getting an anime. Miles, what are your first impressions on My Senpai is Annoying?
So me and my senpai is annoying. We have a bit of a hot and cold relationship. Um, there's a lot of enjoyable things about my senpai is annoying. The OP, amazing.
So good.
Holy, like no right being that good. It's so good. Um,
But that's kind of like with like Wodokoi, right? Like the OP was just so
God,
good,
the
and then
the Wodokoi OP is like, God. But this show, okay. First off,
yeah,
this show is better than Wodokoi.
okay, I agree.
Okay.
I personally agree.
Two, episode 2 of this show was, oh God, I don't know if I can just say this. I don't know if this is true.
Say it.
My least favorite episode of anime.
Like ever?
Ever.
You
I just think out of all of the episodes of anime I've watched,
wow, you watched like
it was my
Handshakers.
least favorite.
Wait, you watched Rising of the Shield Hero?
Yes, I gave Rising of the Shield Hero a 2. There's an episode in Rising of the Shield Hero where the whole moral of the episode is basically just like slavery is good if you have a kind master. And like, I hate this episode more than I hate that episode.
That is insane.
Well, that was like, God. So, I don't. Do we want to get into why, or do you want to?
You know what? Spoiler alert. Miles is going to go into some deep dives in the episode 2.
Okay, so as I was talking about earlier, My Senpai is Annoying. You know, it's an adult show. Adult shows need a bit. The bit is that the main character is secretly 12, and that's not the actual bit. She's small. She's little. She's like 4'8" or something, probably. And her senpai, her work person who like mentor, is a massive man. And get it, the height difference is there. So she is very small, and she doesn't have big boobs, and her friend has big boobs, and she's sad because people view her as a child, which, like, I guess fair. She's small, and like that would probably get annoying when you're like a 25-year-old woman or whatever. And it's anime, so like I understood. You know what I mean? Like even like the OP, which I just said was too good, has like a bit where it shows how big her friend's boobs are, like just in the OP.
Yeah.
And so, like, they did the thing where, she'll see her friend's boobs and she'll be like, wow, I wish I had bigger boobs. And that's happened in, like, 47% of romance anime, right? Like, that's probably too low.
I think you're gonna say 47% of anime.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a large amount. And, like, it happens, and it's a joke. And then they do whatever they were doing in the episode. The entire episode 2 was that bit. It was the entire episode was the bit. Like, there were multiple characters whose boobs she was jealous of. She found a way to stuff her bra. She called her grandfather. Her grandfather.
That was a bad scene.
And asked what he thought. It is a surreal scene. I don't know if anyone has seen, like, Mulholland Drive, but, like...
On an anime podcast? Probably not.
Okay, well, if you have seen Mulholland Drive, there's that, like, diner scene that's like they go back and there's like the person eating the corpse outside by the dumpster and then it just disappears and it's so fucking surreal and you're just like, did I see that? That's the grandpa scene in My Senpai is Annoying.
I love it.
She calls her grandpa and he's like, oh, like my fearless granddaughter who never asked for advice is calling me for advice. I need to like give the best advice I can. And so he's like, what is it, my dear granddaughter? And she's like, what would you think if I got like way bigger tits? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I guess I have to answer this. So I think you're great the way you are. And then her battery dies on her phone and she can't continue the conversation. And it cuts off and is never brought up again. And it's like a fever dream. Why did that happen?
Yeah. To me, that scene makes no sense. I felt like that they needed... I mean, in the manga it happens too, but like I feel like it's like they made the episode and it's like 18 minutes long. It's like, oh shit, it needs to be 22 minutes long. Throw in this scene or something like that. That's kind of like how I felt with it. I'm a little indifferent from Miles. I thought that episode was just like whatever. I didn't think it was that fun. I did like at the end where like the senpai like grabs like the guy taking pictures of people's skirts and like asserts dominance type of thing. I thought that was like a good way to like give another reason why like they're because like they're the romantic interest for one of the two couples kind of that like are brewing. I'll put it that way. And I thought that was like a good, like, you know, like knight in shining armor type of thing. Like this guy is like looking out for me at like all times, even when we're like riding the train and it's nobody else knows but him. I thought that was like a really cool, fun element. The story itself is just like quirky. So I'm not expecting like deep shit. So that's kind of what I'm getting from the anime. So like I don't have a whole lot of qualms with it. I think I'm doing an okay adaptation, sorry. Just because the manga chapters are really short, like they're like 9 pages, and
yeah.
The fact that they're making full length episodes from the scenarios, I think they're doing a pretty solid job. So I don't have I think it's like okay. The animation's like whatever. I compare this to like when I do this with like Tonikawa, which is like a really fun romance show, but like the animation is like whatever. If the animation was better in this show, it wouldn't change my opinion on it.
The animation isn't bad in this show.
It's not bad, but like, you know, like looking at it, it's not winning any awards. It looks very, I don't know, like new age cookie cutter kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that, I guess that's what I mean.
But I think the character design is good. They do a really good job of making Futaba look like an adult, I feel like, which is impressive. And I don't know if it's just the outfit, but like she's so little, right? But they do give her like not like hips, like to some extent. Like she isn't just a lolly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I thought that was good. And then the hedgehog or the porcupine from Odd Taxi is in this show. And I think that's really cool. It wasn't a crossover I was expecting.
but we got
But
there.
we got it.
He's
So
a,
I'm excited. I'm excited.
he hung up his rapping and is now like an
Yeah.
accountant or something like that.
After his criminal, he had to, he's turning a new leaf,
Yeah,
and
shifting gears. But for me, in terms of recommendations, if you're a rom-com fan, I would recommend this. If you are whatever to the genre, I think there's better shows out there. I don't think this is much must watch. I think you can binge this when it's all said and done on a rainy day if you're looking for something new type of show. But for me, this is like my favorite genre of anime, so I'm obviously watching it week to week. But I do think it has its qualms. I have it like at like a 7 right now. I think this is just like a solid 7 out of 10 rom com.
yeah, I think I would give it a 7 too. I mean, I would recommend it. I think it's a good time. Um, I'm surprised you think it's better than Wotakoi then though. Don't you have Wotakoi at like an 8?
Well, I know I have it right now at a 7. I know what happens because I have the manga.
Okay.
I have the manga at a 9.
Okay.
So like we are really just in like the beginnings of like learning everybody. We don't even have like we still have like 3 more cast members that need to get introduced that haven't been introduced. So
Okay.
like we're
Yeah.
still in the beginning stages. That's why I think right now it's just okay. Down the road I think it gets significantly better.
When you and Pat were talking about this, I feel like you underplayed the romance aspect of it. Like from the way that it was pitched, it sounded like it was like really romance light, but like romance sort of feels like the 1B plot line. You know what I mean? Like it's not like the main thing is the relationship at large, but like that romance subplot is there, and then you
Yes.
have the B plot with the 2 other coworkers who are just a great couple.
Yeah, they're fun.
So yeah, they're just like good people, and they're not horribly toxic like the other Wotakoi couple,
Yep.
and that's enjoyable. So I've enjoyed it. I thought it's a good time. All the characters are really good, and if you don't like the show, watch the OP because it's worth it.
Watch the LP. So yeah, that's our recommendations for My Senpai is Annoying. But next we're gonna talk about probably anime of the year. I think. I know Miles already has this as a 10 on his ball.
I tried to tell them to let me fucking put it 11.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy. The Oscars were like, hey, like we know we don't have a category for you right now, but if you can hold on, like we're making.
Well, they
one
do
for
have
you.
they do have a category, Best Picture.
Oh, but that's but like okay, because
They're making an exception.
They do movies. This
Well,
is a
I mean,
show, and
a
it's
movie
so
is what you make it.
It's so good. It's so good that the Oscars are adding like a TV category because the show is just blowing people's minds. That's Pride of Orange.
The Oscars bought the Emmys.
Yes, the idol gotcha hockey story that we got of the Dream Monkeys from I don't know rural Japan. We were jokingly and kind of serious at the same time because I've been craving a hockey anime as somebody who lives in cold weather. I grew up with hockey my entire life. I think hockey is the perfect sport for anime. They can make it so well done. And this is our first hockey adaptation that I know of, and it's an idol gacha game. So, that being said, this show sucks massive balls, and I am watching it as soon as it's released. I think the story itself is just so preposterous. The writing is so bad. The story itself is terrible, but I can't turn away. It's like a car crash, my man. It's just like I can see it coming. I know it's gonna be bad, and I'm not turning away. Miles, you watched 1 episode of Pride of Orange. Your thoughts?
So, people listening, if you're a regular listener, if you watch our Watch Club episodes or anything else that I've guest starred in, there's like, I'm sort of the pretentious guy on the podcast, but I gave Handshakers a 6.
You did.
Okay? I'm not that full of myself. It's a bit I like to play. I gave Rosario Vampire an 8. I've given lots of bad things lots of high scores because I am sure they're ironic, or at least I have convinced myself that it is like
there you go,
self-aware in some way. Handshakers is self-aware. The food stall scene proves it.
And the leg, no, was that the one with everyone like broke their arms?
Everyone broke their arms.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyways, Pride of Orange isn't that. It's awful. It's not even awful. It's boring. The first episode was one of the dullest things I have ever watched. Ever. And I have watched documentaries on fucking chemistry and shit. Like, it's just so dull. They're friends. They're in the knitting club or something.
The embroidery club.
Yeah. Then they get, like, free hockey lessons, and so they pass a puck around for a bit. And that's episode 1.
10 out of 10.
It's just, like, our community, the What Do You Say anime community, has done this thing where they've all, like, hyped it up to each other. And, like, unfortunately, only Pat and I were immune to it.
Yeah.
And everyone else is just in this, like, suicide cult.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a blood oath, and if we say anything bad about it, like, I'm gonna wake up with, like, a horse head in my bed.
Yeah, you'll have realized how much time you spent watching the show, and it's like sunk cost fallacy.
Yes, exactly. It's like a One Piece fan that can't admit that it's just average, but...
I don't know. The only reason I would continue to watch this is I want to, like, be able to talk to you guys about it in, like, a mean way. So that I could, like, say what happened without pretending like it's good to, like, ruin your day. Like,
yeah,
that's why I would do it.
I think we should also bring up that in the first episode... They win. It's like foreshadow. Like, you see the ending first, and then we get to see the backstory. They win
flash forward.
Yeah, flash forward. So they win like the Junior World Cup against Canada. Like 2 or 3 years into the future, they beat this hockey powerhouse. Like, but we did like look up like their stats, and Japan isn't awful at hockey. It seems like for women, so not entirely like impossible or whatever, but like. The fact that, like, 7 girls learning hockey for the first time could beat Canada in the World Cup was just like, all right, calm down. And then afterwards, they have the idol performance. So, not that hockey is exhausting at all. Giving this, like, wow, 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 yay, victory dance scene at the end of, immediately after winning the World Cup of hockey. Was just preposterous, and that's where I knew that this show was gold. It makes no sense. The first episode where they are like doing stretching and it's just like idle dance moves. It's just like,
well, the instructor was the best part of the show, and she is a sociopath of a woman who is like luring in small children to like try to make hockey more popular by essentially pimping them out.
Yes,
and. That's the plot of the show.
Idols move the meter. They idol fanboys pay lots of money for merch and for concerts and stuff. So it's on ice. So of course people will go see idols on ice, right? Like, what a cool, interesting concept. Not a whole lot to say about this show, to be honest.
Another in the seasonal preview, yep. you and Pat said that these character designs were akin to Love Live, and I have a bone to pick with that because Love Live has good character design.
Well, the front girl looks like what was her name, Maki from Love Live?
She looks nothing like Maki. How dare you?
No, not Maki. Who am I thinking of?
Hanukkah?
I don't know, the redheaded girl from Love Live.
Maki?
I don't know.
The one that's in love with Nico?
No, like the one that eats all the time.
God, that sounds like all of them.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up. Not Maki. Sorry, Maki's the wrong. It's Hanukkah. Yeah, she looks like Hanukkah. Hanukkah.
And she doesn't look anything like Hanukkah.
They both have the thing in their hair, and they have.
Oh, they both have a scrunchie.
Yeah, they have scrunchies.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
The 90s called Everyone's Hanukkah.
Yes. I think that's a very fair comparison. But, I mean, they all have, like, the idol tropes. Like, the main character is the positive-go-lucky, the cute little sister, the shy girl. you didn't see it because you didn't make it, but you have like the deadpan serious girl who's the transfer student. Who's
Oh,
like,
well, I mean, that's going to make me pick it up.
yeah, and so they all have the idol tropes that you see in Love Live. So
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that this isn't just a Love Live clone with hockey, because it is. But, like, the character design and, like, the color palette is
the
significantly
little
worse.
sister looks like Nico. Come on, it's like Nico with blue hair.
Yeah, okay. Don't get into character design, Pete.
You don't get. Tell me in the comments if I'm right or wrong. I don't know. I feel like I'm not that, like... I feel like this is not as preposterous as Miles is making it seem. Like, I feel like I could do, like, a side-by-side comparison of these girls from other Love Lives and be like, this girl looks exactly like this girl from Love Live. It doesn't have to be just Love Live Super... Or the first one. Sunshine,
yeah, it could
Superstar,
be Sunshine, Superstars.
Nagagasi Idol Club, or whatever it's called. Yeah. I'm an... Come on, you know, I'm an Idol super fan, so... Trust my word over Miles's. Miles, would you recommend Pride of Orange?
Don't watch it. Come on, people, don't do it.
This is a skip for you?
Yeah. It's a skip.
Yeah.
It's like a you would never have heard of this if it wasn't for us. Don't ever think about it ever again.
That's harsh, but I agree. I say if you are an Idol super fan, check out Pride of Orange. Maybe. For everybody else, this is like a hard skip. It's really bad. I like meme on it saying like that I love it. I do think the show itself is awful, but I will continue to watch it because I am trash. So that's our...
Oh. 1 second. What if you are like a Maple Leafs fan and you want to see actual good hockey get played?
Watch the Minnesota Wild play hockey,
Okay.
not the Maple Leaves, because we're 4-1 and the Maple Leaves are like, I don't know, 2-3 or something. So
2-3-1.
Hey, I was close.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch good hockey, watch Minnesota Wild. But yeah, that's our recommendations for Pride of Orange. Skip that shit. Next up is Best Girl of Forever, Moonlight Girl herself, Irina. Is that how you say it? Yeah, Irina. We have Irina, the Vampire Cosmonaut. It is a slice of life story about a vampire trying to go to the moon and a fake Russian country using her for it. I don't really know a whole lot to say other than I am a big fan of tsunderes, and we have a adult vampire tsundere, so I am in love with Irina. I think the show itself has some like really funny, quirky moments for slice of life fans like me. However, I do think this falls short in some areas. Just the premise of the story is just like all over the place. The fact that just like they portray the Russian government as just like, as soon as this mission's done, we have to kill her. She must die. And everyone's like, yes, she must die. I'm like, that was really aggressive from a show that's been pretty just like chill for the most part. Miles, what are your thoughts on Irina, the Vampire Cosmonaut?
So, one, we have communist tsundere vampire cosmonaut, which is just unfair of how great of a combination that is.
Absolutely.
So like that's exciting. I think this show is bad.
Yes, I agree.
But
yep.
I don't care.
Yes. That's correct.
Okay. Like I think about it and I'm like, this is dumb, but Irina's great, and like space is really cool.
Space is
and
cool.
Vampires are really cool.
Yes, they are.
And I think there's gonna be a bit of like a tone shift, maybe.
You think it's going darker?
I think it's gonna go a bit darker. There are some hints that I'm picking up on. Here are the things. One, when they're doing the track race, she becomes that horrible evil monster thing, right? So
she's straight out of what's it called, Devilman Crybaby, and she's on all fours and
yeah, she's doing some like crazy shit. Yeah. So 2, the scene you were alluding to where they're all like, let's kill her, That's pretty dark.
Yeah.
They don't really ever explain why they're racist against vampires, but whatever. They are. 3, they had the scene where they covered up the explosion.
Yep.
And they transported like pints and pints and pints of human blood.
Yep.
In the same bottle that she drinks her fizzy water in, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know what happens. Like, she said she's only drank human blood once for her like coming of age ceremony or whatever, but I think something's gonna happen where she like has to survive or whatever, and like maybe it'll make her like a little ferally or something, and like he'll have to talk her down. But I am. There's enough there that I'm intrigued enough in the plot to see where it goes, aside from Vampire Bay.
Yeah. I'm gonna be straight up honest. I'm all for Vampire Bay. That's why I'm watching the show. I love her just super silly and dumb interactions with like when she drinks lemon water for the first time, and she's like trying to be like, she drinks it and she's like super happy, and then the other main character, Lev or something like that, is like, did you want more? She's like, no, I don't want any more from you. I'm just like, oh, she's all pouty and shit. This is adorable. And then like the scene where she's afraid of heights and has to do like the parachute stuff, and
yes,
and like the ropes thing that she has to do, and she's just like, I don't know. It's just like really silly interactions with her, like wanting to go to the moon but is afraid of heights or afraid of flying or something.
She's like functionally immortal, right?
I would assume so, but
she really shouldn't be afraid of heights.
I agree. I don't know how the anatomy of a vampire works in this show, but I think based off vampire lore, I think it's safe to assume that she's functionally immortal. But if
you know how vampire anatomy works, please comment down below.
But I mean, we're getting female Edward Cullen. Like, I'm a fan. Like, that's my boy. Like, I'm Team Edward all day, and Irina is just an absolute blast to see on screen. But like Miles said, I do think the show, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's like meh.
Well, I think again, I don't know, because I don't know. I'm just incapable of like. I think.
Yep.
I think it's like exceptionally meh. Like, I think nothing happens in this show. But
go on.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Because Vampire Bay.
Yeah, Vampire Bay. So sometimes,
and like her interactions are interesting enough that the fact that they do essentially nothing. They've done essentially nothing for the first 3 episodes.
Yeah. They did some training, and then they ate some food and drank some water.
And then they did some more training.
Yeah.
And then there's that awful doctor character.
Yeah. He just wears like cloves of garlic around his neck, and it's like,
oh no, I meant the woman who's like, I'm a doctor, so I can feel up other women.
Oh, the like, pink-haired doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. The other guy's awful too, but he's like more awful in a he's designed to be awful kind of way, and the other one is awful in like a, I don't know.
Yeah, let's have this pink doctor or pink-haired doctor be like just a trope instead of like a character, I guess.
Yeah, she likes boobs, and I mean, like, I get it, me too, but like, same. I don't know, don't let it consume your life.
Yeah, exactly. So, what would you do in terms of like your recommendation, your first impression? Recommend this to X people or skip it?
Yeah. So, like, I would if you like, I don't know, like if you're capable of having fun, watch it. I'd recommend it then. Like, I haven't heard anyone not liking the show. So, like, if you at all like the whole, tsundere bit, the show will at least be watchable for you, I would say.
Yep. I think if you're a fan of, like Miles, space, stars, vampires, check this one out. If you're a slice of life person, I think this is definitely check it out. If you are just a casual watcher, I don't think this is the show for you. I don't think that it's just not hitting for like a lot of things that I like about slice of life. However, I do like the 2 main characters and how they interact, which is pretty much the driving force of why I continue to watch it. But yeah, I think like down the road, this is gonna be a show at the end of the year of my review is it's probably like a 6 or 7. Like that's probably in the range I'm giving it. Like that's kind of what I'm feeling out so far. But if we had like a waifu contest of the year, I think Irina is a top seed. I absolutely love her. She is so much fun. And yeah, that's my thoughts.
I'd put it this way: if you liked Toradora because of um, the complex relationship things and the characters' backstories and how they evolved in retrospect for each other, don't watch the show. If you liked Toradora because Taiga go burr, watch the show.
Yeah. Yeah, and Taiga does go burr.
It's
All right, so that's our impressions of Irina, the Vampire Cosmonaut. Up next, a show. It's only has 2 episodes out right now, so I don't really have like a super good grasp on it. But just based off what I've seen, it's Taishou, Maiden, Fairytale.
third episode came out yesterday.
It came out yesterday. Okay, I just haven't been able to
I
watch
haven't
it.
watched it yet either.
Okay, so we're basing this off of the first 2 episodes. Historical, bought, I guess, or in debt bride for a rich family. They become like a fake couple, kind of ish. The main character has like a broken, unusable right arm, so he has like he has problems with like not being able to function and essentially being an outcast from his family, which I thought was a little aggressive, but I don't know how historical stuff worked in that time where if like one of the sons was like incapable of being like an heir, that he was just like outcasted from the family. So like maybe I can see that. However, the main girl character is cute, fun. I like her interactions with like the Shirogane from like Love Is War. Like the main character kind of looks like his like younger brother if he existed. Kind of acts like that way too. A little darker, a little monotone style of a character, and she's the quirky, upbeat style girl. So I do enjoy that dynamic of it. The mall episode of episode 2 was like really fun seeing so the main character is Tama Hiko, him kind of break out of his shell a little bit because of like needing to go to the city and then just interacting with like another human, because before he's sort of just like a historical neat. He's just sitting in his room being a loser and having problems with who he is as a person. So Miley, what's your first impression on Taishou Maiden's Fairytale?
Yeah, it's cute. Um, I it, the, it's weird, right?
It is weird. It's like
Yeah. um, like I wish. I just don't know how to do it. Like I don't know how to express the thoughts that I have, because like they like she's a great character. She's very upbeat and happy despite her lot in life. He's very down on himself, probably because like his dad doesn't love him, and like she does a good job of providing like a I don't know, like she shows him life is good, at
yeah.
least so far in these 2 episodes. Um, he is like a little annoying because he's like kind of a little too down on himself, I feel like. Um, not insofar as when like actual sad things happen to him, but like he'll be happy and then he'll be like, "Oh wait, I identify as a pessimist, so I like have to be sad," and like that annoys me a bit. They did this bit where, so like I guess in the Taisho period,
Mm-hmm.
they, you know, if they had these brides, or I don't know how accurate the history is here, but like you could like you had to be like 15 or whatever, and she's a year younger, but her parents sold her because they were in like a ton of debt, and I like that's like a little weird to me. Like the 15-year-old being sold into marriage is like already kind of weird, but then like they were like, and also she's too young for that. Like, you know,
Yeah, I know
I
you
thought
guys
that was
like him young, but how you like him super young? Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and like I like they're not like doing anything, so it's not like it's not like problematic or anything. And so like any more so than selling your daughter into marriage is problematic.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like that's just like a little weird. I don't know if it'll end up coming into play. They had this really weird bit at the beginning of episode 2 where they were like just like defining Otome, which means maiden, right? And then it was like talking about how like pure the girl is and like how she doesn't even like think about kissing and stuff. But like I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be tongue or cheek, because they like definitely talked about like when they wanted to sleep together, like in their relationship, since they're going to be married at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then she talked during her like getting her kimono, like she progressed their relationship into the future, and it was the sweet scene because like she handmade her own kimono and he ruined it by crying too much or something. And so like she said like, oh, it'll be like the first kimono my lover gave me and then the first kimono my husband gave me, right? So like there's this like the narration had this like very weird emphasis. I'm not gonna say it's very weird, I guess like it's semi unsettling from a Western perspective.
Yes.
Emphasis on purity.
Yeah.
But then like that's just not in the show. Like that's just not a thing that exists in the show. And I didn't know if it was supposed to be like a bit. You know, like
yeah.
I don't know. Overall, I'd say it's enjoyable. It's pleasant. With anything like this, I'm always like a little worried it's gonna like randomly have some like ecchi scene or something, and I'm just gonna have to be like, well, this was fun while it lasted. But that doesn't appear to be the case. I think I'm gonna continue with it, and I'll probably end up enjoying it. And it's not its fault that I'm on edge like this. It's just because anime is weird.
It is.
You know?
No, it is. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm enjoying it for what it is right now. I do enjoy... It's a little different in terms of like the historical, like rom-com, I guess, without it being like action focused. Something like Yona of the Dawn, which is like, you know, like it has comedy, it has the romance, but it's like more like the action based when it's the historical setting. That's the first thing that came to my head. I don't know if that's a good example or not, but like this is just like a stereotypical historical setting with this type of like rom-com of like a young girl and a, I guess, slightly older guy. He's like, it's like 17 and 14 in the anime, which to me, and like in terms of like historical anime, is like nothing crazy. We're actually going to get to a show, our last show, which portrays the age gaps in marriages like way more than what this show is doing. But
yes, it's also set hundreds of years before this, though.
Yeah, I guess they're both like listed as historical, so like that's
yes,
like
history is a long time. Though.
History is a very long time. So, but I'm enjoying it for what it is. If you are just like a rom-com fan, I guess. If you like My Senpai is Annoying, you're probably going to like this show.
I like the drama in this more than the rom-com bits, I think. Like
please go on.
Yeah, I will. Like the bit with his family is interesting me and how they're going to sort that out. I really like her positive attitude. Like I think like I've always been sort of like you could always positively affect your life, like no matter what position you're in, sort of thing. And like
I agree.
That doesn't mean you can always achieve what you wanted to achieve or whatever, but you can always do something to like better yourself in some way. And you know, you don't have complete control over your life, but you do have control over a lot of things, so you can like mitigate the risk and all of that. And so I really like her outlook. I like the idea of someone being like, you know, brought around to sort of that kind of outlook sort of deal. And like the rom-com-y bits to me have been very, oh, I walked in and you were bathing, and
that was cliche. I guess it's more of like the mall scene where they're like picking out the kimono and stuff like that. I thought that was that was fun.
So that was cute. Like the thing that stuck with me with that though was like her talk about the kimonos and like what they meant to her, and like how, you know, it like there were some funny scenes in there, and she was like a little money gremlin, right? Like that was cute. When she was like, well, if you know, if you're gonna let me buy both, I guess I have to,
Yeah.
you know. And then she got like little star eyes and stuff. Um, but I think that where the show can differentiate itself is the uh, sort of more serious family dynamic that is historically based, right? Like that sort of family dynamic doesn't exist as much anymore. You don't really like send people away for being disabled or whatever. You don't like write them out of the will or whatever. So at least I hope that doesn't happen as much. But
It probably does, but yeah, not as much.
And so you know that whole angle is interesting to me.
Yeah. So there was a show last season, The Duke of Death and His Maid has a very similar style of show. So I would compare it to that if you enjoyed Duke of Death from last season, which I loved. I think this is a slightly worse version of that. However, I do think it has like some really good redeeming qualities if you're a fan of the historical drama, romance, comedy style of show. So that's my recommendation for the people who are looking for like a show like this. How about you, Miles?
Yeah, I would say honestly, like if just look at the art and you'll know. Like, um, it looks a lot like the shows that Pat recommends me.
Yeah.
And Pat really likes these kind of shows.
Yep.
So, give it a go if you're into rom-coms, melodrama, historical pieces, sort of deal.
Yes. All right. So that's that. I'm gonna do my speed round because Miles can't watch everything like I can. So I'm gonna do like a very quick recap of like 5 shows that I'm watching and just like my recommendations on it. First one is Faraway Paladin. If you are a fan of fantasy style hero things, like the main character is like, like he's set to be the hero of the land, but first he's a child and needs to train. That's kind of what the vibe I'm getting with Faraway Paladin is like. I do like the aspect that he's essentially the only human left, and he was raised by like 3 3 undead essentially. They like found him as a child and did like a Tokyo Godfathers thing. Except they fully raised this child. So if you like, it's a fantasy Tokyo Godfathers. If you like fantasy Tokyo Godfathers, maybe check that out. Next one is the world's finest assassin gets reincarnated into another world as an aristocrat. If you can't tell by the title, it's a light novel. I thought this was going to be a very, very, very generic isekai like we always get, and I was pleasantly surprised. They explained the magic system very well in this that most shows don't. So that was a big plus. And then the second one was the adult character of the MC, where in the first episode we find out that the main character is like 60, and he gets reincarnated as like whatever, like a kid, but like it was interesting to see like somebody who has like all this knowledge being reincarnated and then uses that knowledge in this new life was a really fun way of a little different, because like we see with like jobless reincarnation where like he's like a 34-year-old NEET and he doesn't really like use any of his prior knowledge other than to be a pedophile. This is just like, hey, like I've learned like so much throughout my life. There's like a scene, Miles, you would love it. They figure out the atomic mass of like gold, and in order to do that, knowing that they are able to create gold. So it's just like really silly things like that where I wasn't expecting it from a show like this, which made it great because like I thought it was going to be like a 5 and it's like a 7. So I'm pleasantly surprised. Next one, another light novel, Banished from the Hero's Party. I decided to live a quiet life in the countryside. Probably the worst anime of the season. It's a very...
People like it.
It's bad.
Okay.
It's bad. Nothing... So there was a show that came out 2 seasons ago, maybe 1. I've been killing slimes for 300 years, where it's like the overpowered main character doesn't want to be like the hero. She just wants to like live a quiet life in like the countryside. This is like the exact same premise, except the main character is just so bland. The big tittied girl comes and it's like, "Hey, I want to fuck you," and he's just like, "I don't know what to do in this situation, even though I'm like a 25-year-old man." She's like, "I'm gonna move in with you. Like, we're gonna get a bed and sleep together." And he's like, I'm not picking up these hints. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you want from me? So, hate that aspect. The characters are weird. The best character in the show is like a slug, and he's in the show for about 12 seconds. So that says a lot about it. I'm probably dropping it after one more episode. It's pretty bad. After that, we have a kind of like Pride of Orange in terms of isekai. It's called the Fruit of Evolution, where entire classroom gets isekai'd, but the fat loser kid doesn't get isekai'd with the class. He's on his own. He finds this fruit because he's hungry, and it just so happens to be the fruit of evolution. If he eats 11 of them, he dies. He doesn't know this. He just so happily eats 10 of them, so he becomes strong, and he gets like has like the RPG stats and stuff like that. And then we get introduced to a gorilla who dies. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But like, gets reincarnated into a waifu, and him and gorilla waifu do adventure stuff, and it's really silly. It's like a really bad Konosuba, but it's funny. Is the only way to describe it. So it doesn't have like the character dynamics that Konosuba has, but it has that like quirky, like what the f is going to happen next episode type of thing. Because I mean, the waifu of this show is a gorilla, so that was like out of nowhere, but still fun. If you're looking for something to shut your brain off to, this is like what I would recommend. And the last one is called Sakugan. It is a really interesting show because it has the father-daughter dynamic of being like like adventurers into this world that is being discovered. It kind of reminds me of Gurren Lagann, where it looks like they live in like an underground world, and they have like these giant mechs that like dig down and stuff like that, and they have this society, but there's like this overwhelming threat that we're just learning about now, and it's like how the story integrates family with like the mom not being there. He's a single dad. His daughter is like a super genius, and she wants to do all these things, but he just wants his daughter to be like a kid, and they have like that dynamic as well. It's a very anime-esque show, but I'm having a good time watching it. So that's Sakugan, and that was my speed round. And now we're gonna get to the last one. I say this because it's done by Science Saru. It is a show that we have both seen 3 episodes for. I think there's 6 out right now.
There's 6. It started a little early.
This was definitely the first one that aired. It's Heike Monogatari. I probably slaughtered that. I don't know how. Heike Monogatari. It's also set in historical Japan. However, we have like this supernatural element. Our main character Biwa can see into the future a little bit, and she has like a dynamic of where she like hates looking into the future because most of the time it's just like bad. And we introduced to another character, Shigemori, who also has like 2 different colored eyes, and he has like his own supernatural power. However, it's Science Saru. They do so many great elements in terms of technical elements in the show. The animation, the music, the design of the characters, I thought are very well done. I think the voice actress of Biwa is very subtle, but I think it just absolutely kills it. I love hearing Biwa speak. It's a very unique style of animation. So
Okay. Great, I'm back.
and Miles got disconnected, but he's back now. But it's fine. I was talking the whole time.
Great.
Miles, you were the first one to start watching. How do you pronounce it? Heike?
I believe I pronounce it the Hiki,
Hiki.
but I don't know if that's correct.
Okay, we're gonna go with.
But I think that's kind of how they pronounce it in the.
Yeah,
show.
They say it like really fast. I go like Hiki, and they go like Hiki. What are your initial thoughts, your first impressions on Heike Monogatari?
So, I mean, I really like it. But I like everything Science Saru does. I like the characters. Biwa is really interesting. I like like the pacing and stuff a lot. Because like really these events like flow into each other in like a very neat way that keeps me interested. The only thing I have had trouble with is like the cast is massive, and I think they're like historical Japanese figures from a very famous story, so they don't introduce them super well because you probably don't need to for the target audience.
Yeah, this is one of the only shows that I've seen on Mal where the source is book.
Yeah. And I mean it's from like a very, very old the tale of the Heike or the Heke or whatever is from 1330, right? So it's been told, a ton over in Japan, and so this is like a new rendition of it or whatever. But because it's so well known, I've had to like look up some stuff on like, and I love doing this, but I know some people don't, right? But like, who was, the shogun at the time, and who, what was the state of feudal Japan, and all of, so I can understand the context to it, because, there's like a lot of brothers who are both emperors of like given areas, and it would be kind of like getting thrown into Game of Thrones without knowing how like European monarchies work.
Sure, yeah.
Like
yeah.
That's how I feel with it, That's so while that's a lot, I very, very have been like I've very much enjoyed the story so far.
Yeah, because we just finished watching and doing a review of The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, and I'm getting some of those vibes from this in terms of like the storytelling in this historical sense, while having a supernatural, I guess, I would be the word I would use with these characters. And my big qualm with that movie was it's a folktale. I wasn't super familiar with it. I couldn't understand the story I couldn't connect to the story as much as I wanted to. Kind of getting it with this show. However, I just love Biwa as a character. She is so much fun. I love how we get like glimpses of her power, but it's not like super in depth. Like I understand like what her eyes are trying to do, and like she has like the internal struggle of like she doesn't tell the people of their future. Yes. Because we see it with like the girl that she is like friends with when she moves to like this new house, that she sees her like in a capsized boat in like the ocean, and she's struggling with like that notion of knowing that that's going to happen.
And that's her sister. She's very close with her. Her adoptive sister.
Yeah.
And like, that was Biwa is like really interesting. And I think Biwa has like a psychic power, quote unquote, that like Pat could deal with, because it's just like can glimpse the future sometimes, and that's it. That's the power, It's not something you can like exaggerate, or at least not yet, or like and expand and whatever. Yeah. It's just it does the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's, to me, all of the like Shigemori is like a really interesting character, because he is like pretty like lawful goody, it feels like.
Yeah, because right? he essentially declared war on his dad if his dad was going to like go through with what he was planning. So like he's he's so loyal to like the current is it like a king, I guess, or whatever the title is of like or is it emperor?
It's an emperor. Yeah.
He's just like so loyal to the emperor. He's like, I will declare war on my own father because of how grateful I am to the emperor. And I thought that was like a really interesting dynamic of his character.
Because the emperor brought their family to power because his father was originally just a warrior, right? Like a samurai class or something like that. And he got brought into nobility, either by this emperor or this emperor's father or whatever. And so there's like a bunch of dynamics about them not like really belonging, and their families like look down at it a bit, and like their families like kind of bullies because they don't feel like they belong, but they have the power currently, so they're trying to like assert themselves. There's really good like feminist themes in there, like with the sister. She doesn't like her role as like a woman. She has to get married off. She talks to Biwa about it.
And she has to get married off to like a kid who's like 10, right? That's like
much younger than her.
And she's like 16 or 17, I think, at the time.
Yes. And Biwa was like raised to like act and dress like a boy because being a young girl in the like poor region they were was like so dangerous and stuff. So there's like interesting dynamics with all of that. There's just like a lot of interesting like character play and stuff, but as you've hinted to, it is really dense, and it's like dense for me, and I like dense things. So I don't even know if I would recommend it to everyone, because like I think it requires you to do a lot of work, and that's not what everyone wants when relaxing and watching an anime, so like if you don't mind doing that, then I would say absolutely go for it. Or if you like really like Japanese history, for sure go for it. Because seeing the parallels between this and the Tale of Princess Kaguya was like really interesting, like how they would walk on their knees and stuff. It was like learning stuff about that.
They did like the kind of the same thing where like one of the girls like rejected the marriage, so she had to go be a nun. And then the next time you saw her, she had like shaved eyebrows, showing like she had like a hat on where like you couldn't see her hair. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I learned that from the Tale of Princess Kaguya, and now I'm seeing it in this sense as well. I'm like, oh, like I knew that's kind of was a thing, that if you rejected like this political marriage, this arranged marriage, like if you're a female, you essentially have to go be a nun for the rest of your life.
Yeah, she was like a concubine for one of the High Lords or whatever, but then she didn't want to do that anymore. But like once you've like slept with someone in like royalty or whatever, if you want to like stop doing that, you have to become a nun or something. But she ended up having like a good little future life. So, because Biwa took like a risky look into that, but saw that it was like all good, and I like that too. I like that there was like happiness in there.
Not everything is just bad.
Yeah.
For me, in terms of like recommendation, I think that there's some like really cool mystery elements in the show that are still being addressed. We saw like Biwa run up to one of like the dancer girls and thinking that it was her mom, because her dad like told her like, hey, your mom this was like her profession. So we have like the idea that like maybe her mom will pop up in the story sometime. Maybe the power, we know that there are people who have like the different colored eyes and they have different like supernatural powers type of thing. I don't know if powers is the best word, but like they have like abilities,
visions.
Maybe
they're like spiritually connected, basically.
I like that element. I want to learn more. I'm hoping that we get to see it more from like Biwa, Shigemori, and maybe some other characters that just haven't been introduced. And I like the end of episode 3 declaring war on like his dad, and like that was like a really unique storyline that I didn't really see coming. So there are a lot of things that I'm intrigued about with the show, where I would recommend this to Not everybody, but like if you like the mystery and this style of like Science Saru shows, I would definitely recommend this show to that group of people. But I don't think this is gonna be like, it's pretty down on the list in terms of popularity. I get it, but like I do think this is a pretty solid show that I think that a lot of maybe like older anime watchers would enjoy watching.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you definitely need to be like, you have to pay attention to it. You have to. Sometimes you need to go back and like make sure you have like connections and stuff right, and part of that is just due to. I mean, I guess if you're very familiar with Japanese history, you will not have to do that. But provided you have as much Japanese history as I do, which is like so little, um, you know, you don't have to. It's like when you go and see Hamilton, it's probably like a lot more confusing when you just don't know who George Washington is. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Why does this guy have a song? So that's like I very much enjoyed it, but I don't know. It's not like a blast. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a yeah.
Yeah, like I have fun when like B was on screen, and when everyone else is like on screen, I'm more of like, I don't know, watching like a documentary or something. Like it's informative. It's like cool what I'm seeing, but it has different elements that I enjoy personally. But I can definitely see that like not everybody is going to be on the same boat as me.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap up our first impressions of fall. If you enjoy our content, you should like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are on. It is the best way to support the podcast. If you want to come talk anime, manga, TV, movies, sports, whatever, in the links below, we have a link to our Discord. Come join. We're a very active Discord. In a week, we will be having our Watch Club, our spooky episode of Watch Club, where we'll be watching and reviewing Doro Hedoro. And then in 2 weeks, our most popular segment is coming back. We have Anime Jeopardy 6, hosted by the lovely Miles himself. He will be creating a game for us to play. Pat will be defending his title. I will be playing as well, and we'll find a third as well. We'll find somebody to play. So that's in 2 weeks. We have a whole bunch of stuff planned. If you are in Anime New York City, are going to Anime New York City, a lot of us are going. Say what up to us if you see us. If you want to hang out, I don't know, shoot me a DM or something. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in a week for Doro Hedoro Watch Club. So thanks for watching.